What is up, guys? Xbox here. Before we start this, I want to kind of say I recently reset my channel. I kept some of the old videos for uses from other sites like CurseForge and all that, so I can have the tutorials up. But today we are going to be starting a new series. This is going to be the start of how to make a survival game in Unity. For this tutorial, we'll be using version 2019.3.0810. So before we start, I also want to say, all of the assets we'll be using in this tutorial I've made myself. Download will be in the description. I will also link all of the code in the description, so if you need that, then you can go ahead and head down there. But yeah, let's get started. So first of all, we're gonna hit new, and we're gonna call this, let's call this YouTube Survival. And let's set the version to 10A or 0810, and let's hit create project. So I'm gonna speed this up so you don't have to wait. Okay, so now that our Unity is loaded in, let's set up our project. So first we're gonna go down here and we're gonna right click and we're gonna hit create folder. Let's call this game. Inside of game we're gonna create 6 folders. Folder scripts. Let's create another folder, scenes. Create folder models. Create folder materials. Create folder prefabs, and finally create folder animations. So over the course of this series, we'll be covering all of these. I also want to say in this tutorial, we'll be covering movement, which is this episode here, animations, random world generation, AI, looting, crafting, inventory systems, and building. And probably even more than that, like weapons and such. But let's get started by importing the models. So over the series, I will actually add more models to this. So let's go ahead and drag this to my other screen. We're gonna go ahead and right click here, and we're gonna hit show and explore. In here, we're gonna go into models, and I'm gonna drag in all of the models that I created right here. Fire axe, Glock 18, and the machete. So now if we go back into our Unity, that will import everything. And here we have our things. So we have a machete, we have a fire axe, and a Glock 18. So let's quickly set up all of these prefabs. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag in our Glock 18 model, and we're going to make some edits to it. So this will show up like this. It looks kind of weird because it's the way I modeled it. So let's fix it up. So let's right click and hit unpack prefab. And all we need from here is the body, the bullet, and the magazine. Let's drag those out. Everything else is just done. You can save this if you want. This is a cool little table I made, but I'm not going to be using it in this series, so let's just delete that. But this is what we really need here. We need the gun, the magazine, and the bullet. So I modeled the gun all by myself, so you may use this for your game if you would like. I really don't mind, but this is kind of like a example one. The model, just to kind of go over everything, we have the mag release, we have the trigger, the slide, the iron sights, we have the barrel, we have the bullet, and yeah, we can slide this back and forward. If we slide it back enough, we can actually see inside of the gun where the magazine goes. And yeah, so let's actually set X to 0 or negative 0.1. Or actually, no, let's just drag it back to where I want it. There we go. Now let's select the body, and let's set its positioning to 0, 0, 0, and let's set the rotation to 0 and 0. Now let's scale this down like a lot, so let's set this to like 3 I would say. There we go. Now scale down the bullet a lot to like 3 again probably. I would actually say 2 for the bullet. And then the magazine, let's set its rotation and everything to 0. Set the bullet to 0. Let's scale down the magazine. So 80, let's set this to 40, and let's set this to 50. We could just scale it down with this here. Or actually, let's just parent it to the gun, and let's do 111. There we go. Now let's drag this in. Let's kind of put the magazine into the gun. There we go. Make sure it's in right. Yep, perfect. Alright. So now what we can do is we can actually drag this out. And let's go into prefabs and let's save this. So let's call this magazine. Let's call this bullet. Let's make an empty object and let's call this Glock. We can drag the body in here. And then simple, we just drag all these into our prefabs. We have the Glock now, the bullet, and the magazine. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we are going to go and we're gonna create some things, which actually, scratch that. Before we do that, let's go to the asset store really quickly, and we're gonna pick up a free asset called Unity Standard Assets. So we're gonna search for assets right here, and we're gonna search for standard assets, and we're gonna click this one right here. So once we click this, we just want to hit the import button. Alright, so now that our project is imported, the current version I have seems to have this all messed up. So we're going to go in here and we're going to quickly fix this. So let's change this to GUI image and the other one to GUI text. Alright, let's double click this here and let's change this. Let's do using UnityEngine.ui. Let's change this to image. Let's Control S, save that. Now let's go here and let's change GUI text. Let's do using UnityEngine.ui. Let's change this from GUI text to just text. Now let's Alt tab back into Unity. And now this should re-import everything if I'm correct. Alright, so now that's done, I'm just gonna hit clear on the console, and everything is fixed. Well, that we know of. So let's zoom out now, and we're gonna right click on our sample scene and hit 3D object plane. Set this to 0, 0, 0. Let's set it to 10 by 10 by 10. There we go. Now here, what we're gonna do is we're going to call this ground. And we're gonna go back to project and we're gonna minimize that. And in game, in materials, we're gonna create two materials. We're gonna create one called ground, and then we're gonna create one called player. And then in ground, let's make this kind of like a steel, I would say. Like kind of like a concrete. Alright. There we go. So now let's go into our hierarchy and hit I'm being dumb. Go to standard assets, go to characters, first person character, prefabs, FPS controller, drag this into your hierarchy, and make sure its positioning is 0 to 0. And now we have to get rid of this main camera here, and if we hit play, we should be in the game. Here we can press W to walk forward, S to walk back, A left, D right, space to jump, and there. So now let's stop playing, and now let's do the cool stuff. Let's give him arms and a gun. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna right click on first person character. I'm gonna hit create empty, and in here what I'm gonna do is we're gonna make our own arms. So what we're gonna do here is we're just gonna right click and we're gonna hit 3D object, or we're actually gonna rename this game object to arms underscore Glock. And in here what I'm gonna do is I'm just do 3D object cube, and we're gonna set this to 0.5 by 0.5, or actually 0.2 by 0.2 by 1. We're gonna go here and we're gonna go here. Let's make sure that for first person character in our camera, let's make the clipping planes near to 0.01. This will make it render everything a little bit closer. Think of far as your rendered distance, like how far it'll draw things and how near it will draw things. So here in cube, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna kind of position this to kind of be like a arm. Seems a little bit long, so let's do 0.7 or 0.8. Let's drag that back a bit. Now let's give him a hand. This would be arm. And then we're going to right click and we're going to hit 2D cube. We're going to do this. Except here we're going to do 0.5 or 0.3. We're going to shrink this down by 0.8, 0.8, 0.2. There we go. Now let's do that. There. We have a little hand now. So now we can actually texture this. Let's call this hand really quickly. Let's grab arm and let's duplicate this and let's put that over here like so. Let's move the arm this way more. Now let's make sure that our hand can move. Oh, and it kind of messes everything up. So what we can actually do is we can do that and we can go like that to move our hand. But I don't think we're going to be moving out our hand, so we should be fine actually. So let's do that. Now in materials, let's create a material. And we're gonna call this sleeve. And we're gonna make another material and call this hand. So hand, let's give it like a little bit of a skin color. Let's give it like a nice tan. Let's drag these onto his hands now. And then sleeve, we can change this to a let's do a color like that. We can change it to like a dark red, I guess. There we go. So there. Now we have our hands. And now all we have to do is assign it to which hand. So let's call this arm right. And then we call this one arm left. Alright, so now what we can do is we can grab our prefabs, Glock, and we can drag this on our arm right and on its hand. Which actually, I messed up on that, so let's do hand here. And actually, no, let's just drag it empty and let's drag it onto his hand. Set its position to 0, 0, 0. Now we can rotate it on the Y axis to 90 or negative 90. We can move it and position it into his hand. There we go. So there. Now we have our gun. Now what we can do is actually position it. So let's move his arm like here. Or let's move his left arm. Let's have him kind of holding it like this. Let's move this arm inwards. Like so. And then we can actually rotate his arms Glock kind of sideways to give it a cool header-like effect. We can move his arms a little bit back, a little bit down, a little bit to the side. And the Glock seems a bit big, so let's change this to like 6 or like 5. There we go. Let's move this up. Let's move it kind of in the center. There we go, perfect. So now we have our Glock right there. And we have our hands and our hand left. Or no, we have our hands and our Glock. So now we have our character pretty much. Now if we hit play, you'll see that we can walk around with our pistol here. So that's kind of cool. Sorry, I cut out. So now let's add our other arms. So we have our arms Glock. Now let's Control D to duplicate that, and let's hide this one. And let's call this arms machete. So here let's go into models and let's drag in our machete. And as you can see here, it also does that weird light thing because I forgot to detach that. So let's unpack this prefab here. And all we need here is the machete blade and the handle. Let's drag those out. Let's delete everything besides the controller, the ground, light, handle, and machete blade. And here let's create an empty and let's call this machete. Let's drag these into that object and let's make sure alright, good. Let's scale it now to like 0.3. Or 0.03. Wait, let's make sure that this is all centered. Okay, let's scale it down now. 0.2. Now let's move this into our arm right hand. F or 0, 0, 0, 0. F. That's still big. Uh-oh. Let's scale it to like 1. There we go. So he's kind of holding it weird, so let's fix the positioning on that. Let's rotate this like so. Let's move that up a little bit higher. Let's move it over. And there. So now we have our machete, and let's actually move his arms to be holding it kind of like a sword. Move him like kind of like that. We can actually rotate his hands too, to be rotating or to be holding it like that. Let's rotate his other hand. There we go. Perfect. Alright, so we have our sword now, or our machete. Now let's hide that, and the final thing we need is our fire axe. So let's call this arms _ fire axe. And we need to do this whole process again. Drag it in, grab everything, cube and cube 0.001. Oh, let's unpack it. Grab those two things, drag it out, delete fire axe, create an empty, call this fire axe, drag the 2 cubes in it. And to be more organized, I'm just gonna name these. This is the handle, and this is the head. So in arms fire axe, arm right hand, let's delete machete and drag in fire axe. Instead it's scale to 1, 1, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. I think it's like 0.4. Let's do this because it's a little bit taller than a machete. And then here what we're gonna do is just do a simple 0, or not 0, 0, 0, 0. Let's drag this out a bit, and let's drag the fire axe out a bit. Let's fix the head hatchet. There we go. Alright, so now let's just set its position back to normal, and let's rotate it about 90 degrees right here, and 90 on the Z, 90 on the X, 0 on the Y. There we go, perfect. Let's move it up a bit. Now let's move the axe kind of be upwards. Let's move his arms back a little bit. Or not, actually no. Let's move. Actually, we should be fine like that. There we go. Okay, so there we have the fire axe now. That's in. Let's hide that now. Now we should just save these. Actually, let's enable these and let's save these objects. So let's grab the machete and let's save this in our prefabs. Bam. Let's save the fire axe too. Perfect. Okay. So now what we can do is we can minimize these. And yeah. So this was a quick little video. This is just to kind of get it all set up, to get everything set up. In the next video, I will be showing you guys how to do weapons and stats. So we'll be going over how to make the Glock shoot, and also how to make things like ammo and health. So if you guys enjoyed, please leave a like, subscribe. I will be doing more videos on this. Yeah, peace.
Yeah, I can never ever find the right words, and there's no way this is real life. There's no telling you're the right girl, so I can only say that it feels right. It feels right, it feels right. Yeah, I can only say that it feels right.